All right, so at this point, we will talk about what's going to go on for the remainder of the semester. Come on. You can minimize, I'm sure. Oh, come on. So, first thing we need to do is check. So first off, your exam will be this week. And I'll go over, and tonight I'm going to go over the practice exam for you guys. So I'm going to go over problem by problem on how the how the practice exam will run. Temple academic calendar, right? I mean, it's the only way you can really find these things, unfortunately, is by throwing it into a search engine, right? It doesn't matter what the school is. This is what, last year's? Yeah, last year's. This year's 2018, 2019. All right, so, whoops. So, fall break is, you know, not this week, but the week upcoming. There will be I'll be assigning homework beforehand, and I will expect you to work on it as much as I would expect myself to be working on stuff for this class, which is precisely 0 minutes. So I don't expect you to work at all during this break. So as far as due dates are concerned, November doesn't really exist, right? Or rather, the week of the 18th, that doesn't really exist. So I'm not expecting you to I'm not factoring that into time for due dates. But what does that mean for the rest of the course? Well, I put up some videos this week on sorting. I also put up one on hash tables, the remaining one on hash tables, like earlier past week. Then I started doing sorting videos this week. I want to be done with sorting, with all the sorting stuff. Basically, that should be out by the end of hopefully by next Sunday. The last of those videos should arrive. And on next Monday, you'll probably get your homework on sorting. So the sorting homework's I've still got to figure out what that is. I have a couple options that I've done in the past. I'm just trying to figure out which one's the most interesting, because sorting algorithms, I could ask you to implement one, and it's not exact, and it's pretty trivial because the algorithms are in the book, and so is the code. So I've in the past, I've asked you to do it with a twist, like implement this sorting algorithm, except we want to optimize it, right? So that we use a different sorting algorithm if it's less than 64 items. Another possible thing is you implement 3 sorting algorithms from a list that I give you, and then you will write to a file to basically gather data on how long it takes. Maybe you plot in Excel to show me how long that takes. But that's more self-directed, and I really haven't come up with a good write-up or an explanation how to do that, because I hate plotting things. But it's still useful. But generally, that's the thing we want to show you. What's that? And I'm still debating as to whether, starting at the sorting algorithms, I set you guys free and let you use any programming language you want to. That will definitely be the case for the last final 2 homeworks that are remaining after that. So you're going to get a sorting homework next week, and then after the break, you'll get your 2 graph homeworks. One is super easy. It will be worth 50 points, and basically it's just simply to confirm, can you get your graph library working? Okay? The other one is a security problem, but it's you use a graph algorithm to solve it, so that's a pretty fun one. And then I've got to decide where the last time lab is going to be, because the only time I have for a time lab, let's see, not next week. That would be a bit weird, right? So it would have to be either the week you get back or the final week of class, or essentially the final week of classes for you guys. So it's probably, and I'm leaning towards that final week of classes. And I've got some ideas of what to do there. It might be a couple of review style questions for that might be on the final. So take some stuff that might be on that sounds like a good idea. So there I'll give you essentially a practice review for a couple questions for your final time lab. But for your last homeworks, the graphs homeworks, you'll definitely be able to use any programming language you want. And rather than implementing a graph data structure, we're simply going to use a library. Okay, so 2 of your homework should be fairly easy, and that last one, the security one, you can technically do it by hand. And I invite you to if you want to. That one's just, it gets messy, a bit messy if you do it by hand, but nothing that you can't necessarily untangle. All right, so there's not too much left. This is essentially the area where basically we get to take a bit of a breath in this class until the final. Now the final exam, and I will just simply, paraphrase from previous students who have taken the exam, is ridiculously hard according to them. Now, I don't believe that that's the case. What I believe the case of the final exam is, being hard is that the final exam, if I recall correctly for you guys, will be on December 18th. If I recall correctly, I think I've got it in my in the syllabus. But it's that Tuesday. But sorry, it's a Tuesday in that week, in that final week of exams. So, you're on the tail end of final exams then. So you've already taken a bunch of final exams, and you've studied for a bunch of other final exams, and maybe put off studying for this one. So 1, you're exhausted. 2, it's just simply the breadth of material and the fact that it'll ask you about questions about linked lists, and you may have forgotten how to operate on those. So, don't forget about linked lists. But overall, it's not necessarily hard. It's just there's a breadth of concepts, and you're already exhausted. I think those are the factors that most impact the students. So just be prepared for that. It is worth a quarter of your grade. Do take it seriously, because it is not unusual to see yourself get a very poor grade on the final and then still pull out with a B or an A. So, I've seen students do. It just does impact your score, and it does help me separate who actually knows their stuff versus who doesn't. We do try to split that 50 theory and 50 programming. Okay, so with that, what about this kind? By the way, I hope to finish up for you guys. I hope to be done lecturing. The last material should be up by. At least I'm hoping to reserve, I'm going to use December 4th over here. So classes end on Monday, the 10th, I believe. Yep, says classes end Monday on the 10th. So on Tuesday the 4th, I will plan on doing a review session. And that generally involves me pulling practice finals or final exams from other universities, and then going ahead and answering their questions. Possibly even entrance exams from graduate universities, because they do ask questions about this stuff. So there are all sorts of sources that we will look at, and we'll see that, hey, these kind of questions, they're not too bad. They're stuff we know. This isn't unfamiliar stuff. So we'll go through that in a lot of detail, and I've noticed that by going through these finals and receiving that, I've noticed that the students have done much better since I've started doing these, going and grabbing other people's finals and just reviewing them. All right. Now, as far as what is to expect on the exam, let's see. Well, we'll go over the practice exam today. There is a question on hash tables. And there's a question on, but before we get to that, I want to go over today's quiz. So we do have a quiz today, and it is going to be on hash maps. So if you'll go up ahead and get onto Canvas, we can go ahead and get started, and then I'll review the quiz for you guys. Remember, your homework is due the following Monday. So the homework's not due on Friday. I pushed the date back to Monday, I believe. So, all right, there's a quiz online on Canvas. It is hash table quiz, and the password is